Hello, thank you for being here. We try to speak my best English. Sometimes there are some words that I don't know, so maybe I will ask to you the words that I don't know. Okay. So yes, I'm a French comic book artist, and I began my career a little bit more than 10 years ago. Before I was a civil engineer. I always wanted to be a comic book artist, but in life, when we arrive at the age of choosing their profession, sometimes it's hard to have the maturity or courage to choose the profession that you want to do. So at that time, I chose to be an engineer. So I worked during like almost 15 years as an engineer. And in 2014, I decided one day, I woke up, I was in Brazil as a civil engineer, and I said to myself, I'm going to become a comic book artist. So I came back to France, and in that time, I had a baby girl that was born with Down syndrome. And that moment of difficulties was like the beginning of my career, because I wrote my first comic book about that story. That is that book, Ce n'est pas toi que j'attendais, that means it is not you that I was expecting for. So I made that graphic novel, and that graphic novel had a very good reception, and it gave me the possibility to continue with other type of works. So after autobiographic, I began to write fictions. I wrote about that, Les Devis de Baudouin. It's a book that talks about the choice in life. It's like, why did I become an engineer? I wanted to be a comic book artist. So I wanted to create a fiction about that thematics. So that is the story of Baudouin. He wanted to become a musician, but he became a lawyer. So I made that fiction. After I made another fiction that already was talking about love, how the relation with love are changing in the world, in the generation. I was thinking about my grandmother, the way that she was living the couple. She married very early and she stayed all her life with the same man. And in the same time, I was seeing my daughter. She's like 20 years, and I cannot imagine her for the moment with the same man during all the life, because all of the changes of the society. So that's why I wrote this story. And there was really a turning point in my career. It was that book, The Hakim's Odyssey, that is available in English too, if you have the luck to find in India. And why was it a big turn in my career? Because I always thought that I wanted to interview people, to know about them, and to tell their story. So this project was to meet a Syrian refugee and to understand a little bit more why and how so many people are leaving their countries, and what are the challenges that they are facing to arrive in Europe. So I interviewed Hakim during almost 1 year and a half, and that interview I made in 3 volumes, 3 books, and it has a great success. And more of that, it made me realize that I really like the fact of interviewing people and work with the words that people are giving to me, work with their histories, because it's like a challenge. You have to respect the original story, but you have to put a little bit of yourself in the story that you want to tell. So really, it was a big moment in my career, and that's how I decided to. That is a draw from Hakim's Odyssey, and that is how I began to think about a way to make like a mix of journalism, of travel diaries, and sociology, all mixed in one project. And to build that type of project, to begin with that project, I traveled to Lebanon. So it was I think it was in 2019. In that time, I haven't intellectualized yet this project of journalism, with interviewing people, with travel diaries, but I was invited in Lebanon. And when I was going to Lebanon for a book fair, it was the beginning of a big event, a big historical event, that is the Saura. Saura, that means revolution. That was the revolution in Lebanon. And like the revolution began maybe 1 week or 2 weeks before I was traveling to Lebanon, the people from the book fair said to me, maybe it's not a good idea for you to come because the book fair was cancelled. And I thought, oh, maybe that's the moment to begin with my project of journalism, interviewing people and understand a little bit more about what's happening in the world. And my project was like that. I was traveling to Lebanon. There was like a revolution in that country, but in the same time, there was a lot of similar situation in a lot of countries, like in Hong Kong, in Algeria. I don't know if it's the English name for that country, Algeria, sorry. Chile, a lot of different countries were agitated by the same type of revolution. So I wanted to understand how and why so many countries with so many differences in religion, sociological context are facing the same situation. So I traveled to Lebanon. I didn't saw that. That are the picture of a photograph that I meant there. And he gave me that picture for my comic book. So that was just before arriving to the country. It was a bit pacifical, but there had some violences in some places. So when I arrived, so that is a draw of my comic book that was based on the previous photo that you saw. So when I arrived, it was like something very historical. I felt that everybody was really happy with what was happening, the situation of maybe change the way of the power would lead the country. And I decided to understand that revolution, to go and meet the people that were participating the revolution. So, that's a picture when I arrived to Lebanon. The situation was more calm, but there was still some, I don't know, how do we say, but some rests of the revolution of the previous day. So when I arrived, I decided to go and interview people who participated from this revolution. And it was really the beginning of my project. And I thought maybe after Lebanon, I could explore other form of activism, of saying no to the power of. So I traveled to Brazil. So sorry, my English is terrible. I'm trying the best, but and that's with that report that I began to really work on the way I want to work. That means I'm not a specialist of revolution, but through the eyes of the people that are living the situation, I can understand, and after me, the readers of my book can understand what the people are feeling, what the people are facing. So it's like that. So after Lebanon, I went to Brazil. To Brazil, I wanted to explore the way that maybe a neighborhood can fight against gentrification. When I went to Brazil, there is we call it favela. It's like a poor neighborhood, informal neighborhood. And they were struggling, I don't know if it's a good word, struggling against the power to prevent the power to build a tourism complex. So I met them there and I made interview and I tried to understand how are their motivation, why do they sacrifice like a part of their life for a common benefit. Something very interesting that I noticed in Lebanon and in Brazil, it's the fact that I were meeting only women. There were no men in that movement. And what I do after each report, that is, I am going to meet a sociologist. I said at the beginning of my project, I wanted to make a mix with journalism, travel diaries, and sociology. So I meet a sociologist to understand some aspects of the situation that I faced. And when I met the sociologist, I asked to him, why do I meet only women in that type of situation? So he explained me that all the thing in life, there is like that is a very difficult part of my English, gentrification, of the gentrification? No, gentrification is when you leave a place and there is gentrification. It means men or women. I don't know the word. Gender divide. Okay, so let's say that. So with that type of situation, there is also that. That means that all the movement that I was looking for, it was linked with health, children, and houses. And the sociologist said that in that type of situation, it's only the women that go on that type of situation. The men don't go, or maybe they go after when it begin to become a little bit more interesting. I mean, in terms of showing that you were there at the beginning, but most of the time it's only women. So in that favela, I only met women that were struggling for their favela. So that is the favela when she began to be destroyed. And after that, as I was thinking about the situation of women being involved in activism, I wanted to understand the life of someone who is fighting in a very hostile context, very not, but in an hostile context. So I wanted to explore the question of women's rights, and I thought that could be interesting to follow a woman that is fighting for women's rights in a country where there is a big difference between men and women. So I found an activist in Benin, that is in Africa, and I followed her. She go to the rural parts of the country to tell to young men and women what is consent, to prevent also grossesse précoce pregnancy. That is that? Yes? Okay, early pregnancy. Almost there. One word, not two. Okay. So I went there and I made a report, always the same way. When I do the report, I like to have the exact word that the people say to me. So I always record a lot what they are saying. I am always taking a lot of pictures. And after, when I come back to my office in France, I try to work on the report. So that was the report in Benin. And for me, as I said, it's a mix of travel diaries. So I like to spend time with the people, maybe eat with the people, meet the families, and understand a little bit more about the culture. Not just the subject of my report is important. Here I spend a day with the family of the women that I was talking to. So they tell me about their life, the way that they are living in the rural parts of Benin. So for me, it's really important to share also that type of experiences. And that's how was born the first volume of my series. The name of the series is Reflection of the World, Les Reflets du Monde. And on that first volume, so I was exploring the thematic of activism. And after that, I was thinking in another subject. I wanted to choose also like a universal subject. Everybody does what, and what is very characteristic of our century, what is changing. So I was thinking about my career, why I am working, why do I have to work? I knew that I had to work because of money, but there is no there is other reasons. So what is the place of work in our lives? So I wanted to explore that question of work. Maybe I'm going to go faster, I don't know. Is it long that I am talking? It seems that it's a year I am talking here. No?
It is not, Fabien.
It is not?
Take your time.
I thought you would say, it's okay, Fabien, you can sit. No. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So that was the first book, and after I went to the thematic of work. The name of the work of the book, in English is Working and Living. So to begin my report, in that time when I began to write about my comic books, there was that movement of a great resignation after COVID. So I wanted to understand why after COVID so many people, not in the world, especially in the United States, but why so many people in the United States quit their job for where, I didn't know, if they had changed work or if they were just chilling at home, I didn't know. So I went in Austin, Texas, and that is the place of Austin in the United States. And I went there to meet some people that were part of that movement of great resignation. So I began to meet that man who is going to give me a little bit of food. And that man, he was a very big, how do we say, banquier d'affaires, banker, business banker. So he was lucky because he earned a lot of money, but he was working a lot. And someday he fell in burnout. And he realized that he was earning a lot of money, but money wouldn't be enough. He always wanted to earn more. But when he had the burnout, he said, what I wanted to do when I was a kid, it's like me. Maybe that's why we connected, and I wanted to interview him. He wanted to be a musician, so he became a musician. And I'm telling his life in my book. So I put this picture just for you to see that when I travel, I take a lot of pictures, and after I try to recreate the situation that I've been for the interview, that type of thing. So that's it. I went to the United States to understand a little bit more about that great resignation. And after the great resignation, I met a sociologist, very famous sociologist of work in France. The name is Dominique Méda. And she was explaining to me that clearly the great resignation is a signal that the way that we work creates a lot of suffering, burnout, that type of thing. And she sees different ways for the evolution of work. There is one way that is not really positive. There will be more and more people that will want to work for numerical platform, because the great resignation is a signal that the management is draining the people. So there are a lot of people that want to be independent, to be free. And they are going to numerical platform like Uber, that type of thing. So I wanted to explore that way of working. And to choose the country, I looked where the work is the most important on the planet. There are two countries where the work is very important. There is Mexico and Korea, South Korea. And I also wanted to go in a place where the use of app is very important. So that's how I chose Korea. And I went there, I met like a comic book artist that work for platform. We say Webtoon. I don't know if you know Webtoon. It's a huge business in Korea. In France, it's very few, but in Korea, it's huge. And he also have some problem, mental health, burnout, because that type of platform always ask more and more. The rhythm is very high. And after I wanted to go with a guy who is making delivery, like Amazon. In South Korea, the name of Amazon is Coupang. It's not the same company, but there is a Coupang. Because what is the problem with the delivery man? a lot of them, not a lot, but few of them are dying because of excess of work. And I wanted to understand a little bit more on the way they are working, what the difficulties they are facing. So I wanted to make, how do we say, a tournée with him. Yes, a tour to see him work. So I spent, I woke up really early. It was very difficult to wake up so early, but that is the work of that man, and it's really hard. And after I went to see a family that has lost their son because of Guarosa. Guarosa is the name of the death because of excess of work. So I wanted to meet a family that has lost somebody, and they explained me the way that they are working. So I won't explain because maybe I will talk too much, but so that's it. That is the proof that I was in the place with the guy. Oh, I put that because when I was saying that when I'm in the country, I don't draw. Sometimes I draw, but just little things, just to remember some situations. Maybe that these situations won't be in the book, but most of the time I don't draw. But it was just to show little drawings. And yes, a lot of Korean people ask me if I am a basketball player. And after that, so I was saying that the sociologist said one way of evolution of work is a lot more people working for app platform. And another way, maybe I'm trying to explain something that is very difficult in English. Let's try. The way that we are working for app is very contre-intuitive. Maybe I could not tell that part of the. We are at the end of the. No, not we. No. Okay. So, no, I'm going to. I try to explain. So the other way of the evolution of work that is less probability to happen. That is that everybody on Earth has to realize that the way that we produce, the way that people are explorating their self is not good, neither for the planet, neither for the humans. So we have to rebuild, we have to think again about the organization of work. And I went in Comoros Island. It's an island in the south of Africa. And the problem of that region is the main production of the country, the main way to earn money for that country is produce perfume based on a flower, and the name of the flower is ilang ilang. But to produce that perfume, you have to use wood, because to produce the perfume, you have to burn wood to boil the products. And they almost don't have wood on the island because it's a long time that they are producing the perfume. So they are like, they have the obligation to think about the way that they are producing, because if not, they will end with that production, and it's already a very poor country. They will be poorer and poorer. So it's like the situation forced them to think about the way that they are producing the perfume. And for me, it was like an illustration of what we all would face in the future if we don't think better about the way that we are producing. So I went there, and I'm telling that type of situation, the story of the people that I met, the way that they are working. What is the difference of being somebody who is getting the flowers in a tree or being a delivery man in Korea? What are the similarities? Because that is something also that I wanted to show, that is, despite our differences of work, of country, of origin, there are very similar things in the way that we are living the situation. So that is also a very important point of my work that I want to show in that series. So now I'm here in India, as the introduction said, to make a new volume of my series, Reflection of the World. And this time the thematic is love and couple. It's like work. I always ask to myself, why do we get in couple? If we go out, like we don't know how the human people work, function. Sorry. we can ask to ourselves, why I am in couple? It's strange, no? We could go in couple and change and meet, like friend. We have a lot of friends. We can meet a friend, another friend. So when I was a kid, that was my question to myself. Why? Because my dad was married to my mother. After he separated, he divorced. After he married again, after he divorced. So when I was a kid, I thought, why do we get in couple? There is no... It's not necessary to go in couple. We only have to meet. And so I wanted to explore that thematic. And to explore that thematic of couple, I wanted to understand, how do we meet? How do we live together? And how do we separate? Because sometimes, like my dad, we separate. And for the first report, how do we meet? I wanted to come here in India, and that's how I get the residency. I had the pleasure to get the residency here in India with Matt Salon and Susmita, which is present here. Because India, for me, it's very interesting because in the same time, you have a very strong tradition, like arranged marriage. It's like in France, like maybe 80 years ago, I don't know, maybe more, 100 years ago. But in the same times, you have polyamorous workshop where I went here in India to understand polyamorous situation here in India. So in the same country, in the same time, you have a lot of differences, the way that you can live the couple, the way that maybe young generation are dealing with the tradition and the new aspirations. So that's why I wanted to come here in India to work on that subject. So I interviewed a lot of people, not a lot, but like 15. I wanted to explore a very characteristical situation, like arranged marriage, love marriage, the situation of intercaste or interfaith marriage, queer community. And I went to Cobden Park. I saw a lot of couple, and I asked myself, but why is it all that couples on the benches? So I go to ask to the people, why are you here on the bench with your boyfriend or your girlfriend? And they say, it's because we cannot stay at home. Our parents don't want, or our parents don't accept because he's sick and I'm Hindu. And I began to understand a little bit more about the situation of couple here in India. That is the polyamorous workshop that I went. It's selfish to fall in love when you already have a beautiful relationship. I have no answer. You can think about that. But I think it was interesting, that polyamorous workshop, because it was less talking about polyamorous situation, but more about the way that each one has to deal with, as I said previously, tradition and modernity. And it was really interesting. I also went to see an astrologer. I didn't know before coming in India that to marry, we have to go to see an astrologer. I asked to him if my comic book would be a success. He said medium, so I hope when it will going to go out, you will buy to show to the astrologer is wrong. And so that's it. I'm making this report here. I already done with all my interviews. So if you want to share your story, I think I'm okay with. I have already all I need, and I make some drawings also of Bangalore, and I made a draw of Jean-Marc here on my. You recognize yourself? Yes.
I think you got me totally wrong. I've got a small nose. What's the big nose that you got? I don't understand.
And I think that's it. And on Saturday, I will make a workshop on the Alliance Française, French Alliance. It's a workshop about, in the meantime, comic book and French. So if you want to come, you are welcome. I think this time I'm done.
First and foremost, I'd like to say that his English is good, actually, isn't it? Yeah. So he was keep telling, my English is. Yeah. Thank you.
But I improved. When I arrived in India, it was not like that. Susmita, do you think I improved? Yes.
Okay. So preparing this interview, I was wondering what type of question I could ask Fabien. There's a great tool that's called ChatGPT. Try it. You typed, what kind of question should I ask Fabien Toulmé? Came up with a very impressive. You need to understand that Fabien is quite well known in France. Okay, that graphic novels is a very popular medium in our country. Maybe you say a few words about that. So came up with a list of very pragmatic, well classified questions. I told myself, exactly the type of questions that I don't want to ask him. Maybe you'll come up with practical questions. But I would like to try and get to the spirit of what you're trying to do. I'm a big fan of what he does. I'm a big fan of the reflection series, Reflection of the World. Sometimes, when you try to translate from one language to the other, you get lost in translation. You lose something. Actually, it's one of the few times where actually the English title of your books is actually better than the French. Oh. In French, it's Reflets du Monde. In English, it's Reflections of the World. And why I say that, in English, reflection can mean two things. The reflection, like you look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, it's a reflection. And reflection you think about things. Okay, you reflect. In French, there are two words, reflet et réflexion. Okay? So I think to me in English, it gets to the core of what you do. Basically, as you've explained, your books are about your experience. You experience firsthand, you experience things, you experience the world, you see the world, and you're like a witness, and you hold a mic for people to come up with a testimony. So that's like a reflection of what you see. But then, as you mentioned briefly, you also bring some experts at one point. Okay, in your books, you have sociologists, or you have your teacher of a history teacher at one point coming back to you in a dream. So experts coming to try to help us reflect on the theme that you're going at. So it's both a testimony and a reflection. Is that what you're trying to do? Is that your aim is both to give a true account, like a journalist would give a true account of what they think, but at the same time, to reflect or help us reflect on a theme?
I could say yes, but it would be a very short answer. So I'm going to explain more. Really, I didn't want to make like a didactical book. I'm not an expert at all of all the thematic I am exploring. My aim is to, as you said, give the mic and listen to the stories. And I think each story tells us something, teach us something about who we are all, not just people from Bangalore or people from Brazil, but that tells something about the human beings. And really, at the beginning of my project, it appears in a period that we are very suspicious about people that come from other countries, people from other religions. And a part of this project is to show, as I said, that we are all very similar in the way that we are living, the way that we are feeling. There are a lot of differences, but for me, it's like superficial differences. It's the way that we eat, the way that we speak, the way that we have been educated, but the way that, for example, we can feel love. When I was making an interview, I was asking at the end of the interview, for you, what is love? And you can see that in all different situations, and I'm sure that if I go in another country, the definition of love will still be almost the same. So for me, that is a perfect example that we are all linked by something that is we are human beings. So that was really the aim of one of the aim of the book, and that's why maybe it's reflection of the world in English, so we can reflect about who are the others and we don't have to fear the others because the others, they are us, a little bit like us.
So in all your books, you travel to 3 different countries, okay, and you explore the same dimension in 3 different countries. I was wondering if you were trying with those particular countries to come up, and somehow you started answering that, to come up with a universal vision, or is it the other way around? You're trying to come up with the same thing and see how different contexts actually live that same topic. Is it this tension between the particular country and the universal aspect that you are trying to deal with?
Let's see if I understood. If I don't answer the right way, you can tell me I'm out of subject.
Maybe I'll make it simpler.
Okay.
Why not only in one country?
Okay.
Why the fact that you are discussing the same theme in 3 different, very different cultural contexts? What does it bring to the equation?
Okay. For me to travel in 3 countries, it brings 3 angles. I try to travel in 3 countries with very different culture, tradition, and what I wanted to say, I don't know. Yes. And with the 3 countries, I also want to explore 3 angles of report, as I did with the work. It's not the 3 reports about why I leave my job, as in the United States. So I also try to understand the way that the things are evolving with work. The first report is, what is the place of work in our life and why are we suffering? The second report is, it can evolve like that. We are suffering, so we want to work for digital platform. And the last report is, if we don't go in that direction, that is not the good direction, what can we do? Is there a chance that we manage to go in that direction? So in traveling 3 countries, I also try to tell a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that, for example, with the couple, I will not talk in the 3 reports of the same situation. Here, I'm more focused about the way that people meet, the marriage or not marriage, the way that people can fall in love. And after, I will tell about the way that the people can live their love. And at the end, the way the people can separate, because there's countries they cannot separate. So I try traveling in 3 countries to progress in my story. And progressing in my story in 3 countries, we can compare the situation. Maybe in one country, I can talk about what I faced in a previous country. So everything is very interlinked.
Very nice. I found a few interesting quotes about stories. You were talking about stories. One is, there's always a story. It's all stories, really. The sun coming up every day is a story. Everything's got a story in it. Change the story, change the world. Change the story, change the world. How much of the aim of your series is also to contribute somehow to, at your scale, to change the world? Is it only a testimony? Or is there a will for you to kind of have an input and change the world?
When I do a comic book, if I begin to think I'm going to change the world, maybe I will be a little bit impressed. So I prefer to write my comic book and to try to do my best to tell the story of the people. For me, people are really interesting. I mean, I've always been very curious of the other life people. When I was a kid, when I was working in the street with my parents, sometimes they were asking, where is Fabien? I stayed like 500 meters behind, and I was looking at a family eating at the restaurant. Because for me, it's really interesting the way that the people are living. I'm always asking, why are they doing that? What are they going to do? And I've always been very curious about the people life. When I am with somebody, I do a lot of questions, not for work, but I do a lot of questions. So I think it's my way to to connect with the world. And I think I just at the beginning wanted to share that part of me, and I wanted to also make the people think about differences, about the other people's life. But for me, it's something very more purer. It's just I like to travel, I like to meet people, I like to tell the people's stories, and I just wanted to share that, like in an empathic way. Just that. If it changed the world, I'm not sure it will. It's good, but if not, I did my best.
There's a great balance also in your books. We mentioned the balance between the universal and the particular. There's a great balance between the serious, because you're tackling serious, sometimes dramatic situation, and the sense of humor. There's a lot of humor. It's humorous at the same time. Another great quote that I like is, laughter is the closest distance between two people. So do you use humor in that sense to actually get us closer to the character, closer to yourself, maybe because you're part of also of that? Is humor a way also to help us connect with your character, yourself, and the story?
Bon, when I do a book, there are something that I can analyze and intellectualize, and there are other things I do because I'm like that. When I am in connection with other people, I like to make joke. So I think when I write, it's natural. When I read a book, I like to feel emotions. There are different kinds of emotion. It can be sad, it can be intense, it can be just funny. And when I do a book, sometimes my books are very intense. I can talk about very serious situation, maybe sad situation. So for me, making a little bit of joke in the middle of my report is to show that life is like that. There are some moments that are very sad. There are some moments that are funny. And we have to deal with all that emotion sometimes at the same times. In France, we have like, how do we say? A quote. We say, la blague d'enterrement. How can you translate that?
Burial's joke?
Yes.
A joke that you do at a burial.
Yes. So it can be a little bit like that when you are facing very serious situations. Sometimes you need to do a joke to make the situation more détendu, more chill. Sometimes during the interview, I use the joke because sometimes people that are talking to me, they are telling me very strong feelings. Sometimes people are crying. So sometimes I use joke to let the moment more comfortable. Because when I do the interview, it's not only me asking questions. I see that like we are sharing experiences. For example, there was a situation that I was interviewing somebody, and she was crying a lot because the story of that woman was really serious. And I said, we can stop now. I'm going to tell a little bit about me. So I began to tell, she was telling about the marriage, her marriage, sorry. So I began to talk about my marriage, the way I met my wife. So for me, it's like we are talking. And for me, the best way to make an interview is not too serious. It's not too question, answer. And so that's it.
It's a human connection. Before I give the floor to the audience, now let's finish with India. You've been in India now, in Bangalore, for a little over a month. You've been around. You lived in Brazil. You lived in Benin, I think. You lived in Africa. You lived in Brazil. You traveled so many different countries. So at one point when you travel so much, it might be difficult for you to actually be surprised or amazed or really taken aback. So have you experienced, have you been surprised since you've been here in India? What have you found that it would be particular, typical, or something that maybe you didn't expect before coming to India?
Maybe the first thing that surprised me was the spicy food. It's really spicy. I like spicy, but here you have like a very high level of spice. So that was one of the first impressions that I had. Traffic jam is very intense. The horn. I don't know why people are earning so much. Why? Sometimes you cannot go. You are stuck and the people are earning. So I didn't understand, but that's part of the charm of Bangalore. But for me, the better part are the people. Really, it was, I don't know how to say, the people are really sweet, very easy to talk to. Yesterday, I was at the railway station. I was just trying to find the train on the screen. I was just like that. I stayed 2 seconds looking at the screen. Somebody came to ask me if I need help. So I think it's something very peculiar. Peculiar, we say? How do I know that word?
Peculiar?
I don't know. Peculiar. Okay. It's very
You're getting there. Stay
Yes.
1 more month
Yes.
and...
I'm improving. Yeah. So for me, that is something very peculiar of India. That is a relation with the people. I went to make an interview with a couple. So I arrived, we talked. The mother was learning French on Duolingo, so we tried to...
Why not at the Alliance Française? Come on.
And after the interview, she said, "Oh, stay with us. We are going to eat." So that is something really natural. And the numerous time that people invite me at their place to eat. So I don't know if everybody is like that in India or if I'm lucky. I only meet nice people. But for me, that is the main thing that I'm going to remember of Bangalore. I cannot say India because I only know Bangalore and a little bit of Mysore. But for me, in my memory, it will stay that I will keep the relation with the people very nice.
Hey, Fabien, big fan. And it's really nice to be able to hear you speak about your work. I'm an animation director and an illustrator, and I'm currently working on a graphic novel. Again, it documents lives of people in Bangalore through a certain lens. And since your work revolves around documenting stories, it has it very strongly roots in documentary making. I would say like there's fiction and non-fiction overlapping in the work. And you mentioned that you structure your stories like there's a 3-act structure in the book. So when you have these interviews and these stories, and you have non-fictional, real stories, and you have to put them into comics or graphic novels, how do you find that balance between bringing that structure and I don't know whether to call it fiction, but storytelling structure to a very documentary driven research that you carry out in terms of doing interviews and visiting the places? I don't know if that makes sense.
I think I can understand, and maybe I will answer, and if it's not enough, you can ask more.
Sure.
When I do the interview, when I'm here, for example, I did a lot of interview. There is a moment that I'm a little bit lost. But with time, it's like something that become very clear in my mind. Because when I arrived here, I had like an idea of how people live here in relation of love and couple. So I had an idea in my mind. But the more I'm listening to the people, the more the clearer it stays in my mind. And the report is going like very natural. It is flowing. And maybe that is more your question I'm going to answer now. When I do an interview, it's not very journalistic interview because I try to understand a lot about the emotional aspects of the people. Why do I do that? Because when I am going to adapt the interview, there are the facts. It's very simple to have the facts. But to interpret, to draw the situation that the people lived. For example, if somebody told me I was walking in the street and I met a girl and I wanted to talk with her, I can draw that, but how can I put some words in her mouth? How can I represent the situation? So I will ask, what were you feeling? How was the situation? I tried to explore very deeply in the mind of the person to understand more than just the fact. And I know that when I'm going to write the story, there will be some changes because I will invent the dialogues, but I want to be the closest possible from the original situation. Did I answer to your question?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Hi, Fabien. So I
Hi.
had two questions. One is, how does the editing process work when it comes to graphic novels? The second question is, have you considered, like Persepolis, the graphic novel was adapted into a film. Have you ever considered the idea of adapting any of your novels into a film?
For the first question, what does it mean, editing?
So when you create a manuscript, like your graphic novel, a draft, the publisher would usually give you an editor. It could be a content editor, it could be a language editor. I don't know how it works in the case of graphic novels, the process.
So for the process, generally at the beginning of my project, I sell my project to an editor. And after, I'm going to produce that book showing the different stages to the person that is working with me. Not working with me, but like helping me to have an external eyes because when you work on a project during weeks and months, there is a time that you have it's not clear in your mind where you want to go. It's a little bit like that. I do with my hand. I think it's very clear. I don't need to find the word. Blurry. Okay. So the process is like that, is helping me to maybe understand a little bit more where do I want to go. But I'm working, I can compare it like I'm putting a screen on the wall. I'm very close. I cannot see if it's well like that. So my editor is a little bit far, and he say, just put a little bit more like that. It's going to be perfect. So that's the way that I work with my editor. The second question, the film adaptation. There are some projects of adaptation. I already tried to make a movie. That world of cinema, I think it's not for me. I'm too sensitive for that type of relation. People with a lot of ego. I've got ego, but a very soft ego. So maybe that's why I do comic book. I'm alone with myself and it's easier to work. But I tried to make cinema. I didn't like the situation with producer, that type of thing. So now the adaptation, when somebody want to adapt, he give me money and I give the book and he can adapt. It's very easier. So for the moment, there are 4 projects of adaptation, but it's a very long process. There are a lot of obstacles. Okay. And that's it.
English is easy. You use the French, you just try to pronounce it in English.
Yes.
Hi. I've been reading a lot of graphic novels, and what strikes me about the French graphic novel scene, for lack of a better word, is there is a lot of social commentary. There's also a lot of documentation. For example, was the of wars and revolution, and I think yours also falls in the same genre, which is not very common. Obviously, there are people like Joe Sacco, for example, that I can think of. But France has a lot, like Riyad Sattouf, Marianne Satrapi, in a very different way, maybe even Guy Delisle, though he looks at things very, very differently. And I think you are also in the same genre. So what is it so special about the French that their graphic novel scene is more towards non-fiction and especially reflection on the state of the world and how it is changing, as compared to maybe, say, the American graphic novel scene, which is more fiction and more targeted towards maybe like teenagers and more superhero stuff, for a lack of better word. But like the French graphic novel scene is very different. Why is that? Is there some cultural reason for that?
I would say I don't know the statistics between publication of social graphic novel, non-fiction graphic novels and fictions. I think it's the same part, but maybe I think the more successful comic books are from non-fiction projects, as you said, Riyad Satouf, Marjane Satrapi. But there are also great success of fiction. I don't know, maybe they are not adapt abroad. I don't know. Really, I'm not really a specialist about all that question of statistics. But my sensation, my feeling is that it's very equal between fiction and non-fiction. But that's true that the last big success in France were non-fiction. There was also a very big success. I think it's the biggest success of all editions, like romance, that type of thing. It's Le Monde de Demain, the world of tomorrow. It talks about environment. It's a really huge success. So maybe European people, French people, I think maybe in France we have a lot of readers that are used to read comics and a lot of readers that only read maybe 1 or 2 comic books in the year. And I think maybe the difference is that that type of readers, they go mainly on that type of books, non-fiction. I think it's like that. And in the United States, I don't know really if it's more fiction or non-fiction. I think it's equal. Maybe in the United States, there is a big part of comics like DC, Marvel, but I think it's a great market for non-fiction too. As you said, Joe Sacco, and there are others. In Canada also, there are a lot of Canadian authors of non-fiction. Sorry? Yes. Yes.
I may try to expand what you were saying. Your question could apply to French cinema, actually. So yes, I believe somehow it is cultural in the way that we approach culture in France and maybe more generally in Europe. We usually don't just go for entertainment. We like to have food for thought. I want to leave with a movie or something with can I get something also intellectually and not only in the form of escapism and entertainment. So I think there's a big part of cultural aspect to it.
Hi, Fabien. I have 2 questions. One is, do you also think of putting out your work in a different medium? Like one is comic, like this can, because you travel a lot. Like I was just thinking, it can be a photo essay or an article. What do you think about communicating your stories in different mediums? And second question is, how do you, because you travel all over the world and there would be language barrier. How do you break that barrier and get an honest response? I think speaking the same language makes it more comfortable and more, I wouldn't say genuine, but there is some, the guards are down versus when you're not speaking the same language. So as an outsider, for the lack of a better word, is it an advantage or does it make it easier to you to get an honest response because you are just, I don't know, is it easy to open up to a stranger versus someone who speaks the same language? I'm not sure if
It's perfect. I'm trying to remember the first part. Yes, other medium. Okay. As I am a self-made comic book artist, I don't know if we can say that, I'm very curious about, it's like when I began to do comic books, it was like a luck. It wasn't an evidence. And I had the luck to make a comic book. And it's like you are giving me a gift and I want more gift. I want to explore. So that's why, for example, I tried to do cinema. Someday a producer came to me and said, I like your comic book. Do you want to make a movie? I said, yes. So that's like there is a theater piece. A guy came to me, do you want to write? I don't know if I'm capable to do that. I don't know if it will be a good theater piece or a good movie, but I think I want to try a lot of things. For me, comic book is not just drawing. I draw well, but I'm not a great drawer. I draw the sufficient to be clear, to understand the story, to feel the sensation, but I'm not like a very good drawer. So for me, the more important is to write stories, to share stories. I think I'm more maybe connected with images than with words. I don't know if I would be capable to write a romance. How do we say romance? A novel. I'm not sure that I could do that. But movie, comic book, theater, animation movie, I think it's more the way that my brain works. So that is the first thing. Journalism, pure journalism, I don't think I would do that because I like to have the time to tell the stories. Journalism, I think you have to be very efficient in the way that you are talking, that you are presenting the facts. And for me, what is more important, it's not just the fact, it's the emotional aspect. So that is the first, your first question. C'était ça la question? That was the question?
I think I get it. As a position of outsider, is it easier for
like when you don't
for him
speak
to
the
get
same language?
The same language. Sorry, I'm tired. So, obviously, when I travel other countries, I cannot speak all the languages. In Korea, it was the worst because English, even if my English is not so good, it can be a good help for a lot of situations. But there are some countries that don't speak English. For example, in Korea, a few people speak English. And in that case, I have to be with an interpret. I saw in my previous work with the Hakim's Odyssey the importance of an interpret because depending on the interpret, the story is totally different. There are some interpret, for example, Hakim, he was speaking 10 minutes, the interpret was speaking 10 seconds, and I said to him, you lost a lot of things. He said, no, I said everything he told to me, so I changed. After I had another interpret, he loved to talk about himself. So Hakim talked like 10 minutes and he talked like 30 minutes. But I said, your life is not interesting for my project. So I changed. So you have to find the perfect interpret for the work you want to do. Obviously, when you travel and you go in another country and you contract with the interpret when you're not yet in the country, it's a bit like a gamble. But on one hand, it's true that it cut a little bit the emotion. On the other hand, it let me more time to try to understand the structure of the story, to adapt the way that I want to interview the person. Sometimes, especially when it's in English and I speak English the way that I speak, it goes really fast and my brain don't manage to follow all the situation. After when I record the interview, after when I listen to the interview, I see that I asked something that the person already said previously, and I say, Fabien, you are so dumb. Why did you ask that question that you already answered? So sometimes also it's good to have an interpret because it makes the moment more slow, and you can reflect better on what you want to understand, what you want to ask. So I like the both. For me, the best is in French, but not so many countries speak French. There are a lot, but not so much.
Just to expand on that and how I understand your questions, I was wondering whether you're an outsider, you're a foreigner coming to India. Do you think that you're getting more actually from the people because you're an outsider? Does that help for you to come from, people are maybe more open to you because they know that somehow you're a foreigner? Did you feel that in the interview that you've had, that people are open to you because you're a foreign element?
Bon, it's difficult to answer because I tried to say that I'm Indian, but nobody believed. So I'm always seen as a French. maybe I think the way that the people can open themselves, maybe it's linked to the fact that I come from another country. Maybe it's linked to the fact that it's at the beginning, an interview is always a little bit, how can I say, rigid. For me, an interview, there is 2 to 3 stages. There is the first step is very rigid, so I have to find some question very easy, more like presentation. And with some question, I see that the person is getting more open. And if I see that the person is more open, I'm going to ask more maybe intimate question. So when I was saying that here in India, it's easy to interview, I saw that one time that I passed that rigid stage of the interview, I can go really far in the question that I can ask, and not a lot of countries are like that. In Korea, it was really hard. I was working, the rigid part of the interview is very long. In Comoros, it's the same thing. For example, in Comoros, I think the fact that I am a foreigner, I am white, I am with a recorder was really impressive to them. They were really shy. Here, I don't know if it helps or not. Sometimes I am with an interpreter here in India because the person that I am interviewing doesn't speak English and it's going well. Sometimes I'm alone and it's going well. I don't know.
Do we have a couple of questions?
Hi, Mark. Hi, Fabien.
Hi.
Such a culturally rich perspective, right? And you mentioned that you were in Benin, which happens to be previously colonized by, which was a French colony, right? And you said that met a women right activist. Could you maybe like shed some perspective on how your experience was in terms of coming from the country that colonized them, and also with a far feminist right in your own country, right? Like how that difference played out in terms of color, gender, etc.
Okay. The question of colonization of France in that part of Africa, I would say that in the meantime, it's a subject that is very present in the relation, but I think it's more in the relation at a diplomacy level. I think in the day by day life, it's very more, I don't feel it was a subject in my case. Maybe it depends on what the work you do. I was not there to drill for petrol. I was there to make a comic book. So maybe they saw me as comment on dit, as an artist, as somebody who is curious, who is humble. I don't know if it's a good word. So I would say that in my perspective, there was no question of white and colony, old colony. Something that is a result of that period is the fact that they can speak French. That was very helpful. And on the aspect of gender and activism, why did I choose Benin? As I said, when I wanted to tell the story of a woman struggling, I'm using the word struggling. Is it a good word? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Struggling for women's rights. I take the ranking of the countries with big difference between women's rights and men's rights. And I went from the bottom. It was Afghanistan. I didn't want to go to Afghanistan because I want to stay alive. And after, so the first country that I could be okay without going to be raped, it was Benin. And how did I choose Chanceline? Chanceline, it's the name of the girl. Very early in her life, she began to write theater pieces. I think she was like 15 years old, and she was writing theater pieces to plays. Plays, okay. Theater plays to show in the rural parts of Benin the situation of harassment, of rape, of precocious pregnancy, because sexuality is very taboo in Benin. So to come and to tell about that subject is very difficult. There are a lot of, how do we say, beliefs, sometimes very, I will say paranormal beliefs, but it's not the good word, but So she very early in her life, she began to work on that subject, and she's in a way suffering some pressures, because when you are a girl that is fighting for women's rights in a very patriarchal country, it's hard. So I was very admirative.
I was in awe.
Was in awe of that.
Yeah, trust me. Kind of convey.
I hope you are telling the truth. I don't know what I just said now, but it's good.
But...
Okay, I was in awe for her, and I wanted to understand that what I said during the first part of the presentation. I'm not very courageous, I admit. I didn't go to Afghanistan, for example. So I'm not very courageous. I never be an activist. And I wanted to understand what is to sacrifice a part of your life for a common benefit. And for me, she was a perfect example of that situation, because she's suffering pressure. And that's it. So I follow her. She was in a class with a lot of young people. And it was really, how can I say, touching to see that type of interaction, the question that they were asking to her very freely about sexuality, knowing the situation in Benin. It was really touching to see that type of relation. So I don't know if I answered the question, but I did my best.
Hello, thank you for the lovely talk. Much gratitude. You mentioned that you take a lot of photographs during your travels, and I'm sure they serve as some sort of inspiration when you are sketching. I'm curious as to how you choose to prioritize the elements that you showcase in those drawings, besides the people, of course, because the landscape is so different with every country. And just like I feel like how paintings can make us see things for the first time in a new perspective, so does sketches as well. So I'm curious as to, is there a process or is it complete intuition? How do you choose the elements to highlight when you are sketching? Thank you.
When I do my interviews, there is always like a behind scene. So when I think the behind scene is interesting and it says something of the situation, of the story, of the culture, not the sculpture, I'm going to draw it, because I think it's important. When I do a report, I want that somebody in France that never went in India can feel a little bit of India. And I don't know, I have a very simple drawings. And when I draw a scene, it's like when you do a portrait of somebody. As you saw, I draw the portrait of Jean-Marc. I just take few elements, the characteristical elements, and I try to synthesize the face of the people. And the same I do with the I'm just going to wait. I think it's Emmanuel Macron. No. Okay. So I do the same with the scene. When I am in a country, I try to understand the very characteristical elements of the city, or I don't know. For example, here there is something very important to me, that is a rickshaw. It is very characteristic. The letters, Canada letters, I think it's very beautiful. I cannot understand, but I think it's very beautiful. So I take a lot of picture of the panel, of the signs, because I want to draw that. Maybe, for example, when I was in Lebanon, for me, something very characteristic are the AC on the walls. There are a lot of AC and a lot of wires, electrical wires. Here you have also a lot of electrical wires. So I try to catch the very characteristical elements of the place where I am, and I try to put that in the comic. And as you said, sometimes it's more like intuition. I know that maybe in that moment it could be interesting to put that element. The clothes are very important. Depending on the place that you are traveling, people dress in different ways. The noise, I try. It's a big challenge to put noise in a comic book, but for example, I was talking about horn. It's very characteristic, so I will put, I think, a lot of noise of horn in my comic book. So that's it.
Hi, Fabien.
Hi.
A lot of love in India is pretty intimately linked with caste. And there was something that you initially said in the beginning of your talk where some of your stories about saying no to power. And in cases of India, like when it comes to love, sometimes saying no, sometimes saying yes to a love is also akin to saying no to the powers that be, like parental pressure or societal pressure. And it could also lead to like sacrificing a part of your life for a newer life. How have you seen any similarities to that with regards to like the revolution in Lebanon? Because they're also like trying to fight for like a new life under an old dictatorial regime. So I was hoping if you'd seen any examples where you saw any similarities between two very different cases, which are both macro and micro in the same time.
I didn't realize it could be similar, so I'm going to think right now. What can I say to that question? No, that's true. Something that is for me, I don't know if I'm going to answer exactly to your question, but something that is very, for me, characteristic of India, and I wasn't expecting, is the presence of the family. That is something that in France we don't have anymore. It was like that in the past, but now there are more like nuclear families. We don't live with our parents, and we are really free to choose who we want to love. But it's true that in the stories that was shared with me, there are a lot of situations. Even when the children make like an arranged marriage with joy, it's like they are following without really choosing their own way. I don't know if I can say that. Maybe it's not exact. I don't have like an exhaustive panel of situation, but in the situation that I could, in the story that I could receive, I saw that they are doing that to follow like a tradition, but I'm not sure they are really happy. They are happy, but behind that happiness, I don't know if I can compare with my work. When I choose to be an engineer, I thought that I was choosing to be an engineer. But in reality, I was choosing because the society were telling me, my family, my school were telling me, it's the best way for you. You are good at school, you have good grades in sciences, so you can become an engineer. So maybe I can more compare to that aspect than in the revolution. Yes, I can answer that to your question.
Last question, I think.
Yeah. Bonsoir, Fabien.
Oh oui, du français. Merci.
I will ask in English, maybe, no?
Okay.
So my first question is about the topic I think it's a very bold decision you've made to inquire on love and to be in India. So how did you approach people? Because from Europe, we can have really preconceived ideas about arranged marriage, etc. So I've seen that there was some calls on Instagram or on social media to approach the couple. So first question. Second question is, do you self-censor yourself on questions and after on what you draw and what you explain on the comics? And my third question is about translation, because I've seen that the whole series has been translated in other languages. So I wanted to know, how do you have a view on the translation or?
Okay. I think when I will answer to the first question, you will have to remind me the other question.
So,
I think you already have to remind me the first question.
comment vous avez approché les gens, en fait?
Ah, yes.
Et est-ce que les gens vous ont parlé librement de ces questions?
Okay. Something that was very peculiar from
like that
here
word,
in,
eh?
from here in India, that is the possibility to make a residency. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, normally when I do a report, I have 5 days. So it's 5 days running and there is no place to mistake. That means I have to meet a lot of people. Sometimes the people don't want really to talk. So it's very stressful. So now in India, it has been much more comfortable. So to find the people, all the ways are good. The French Alliance helped me. They put like a form online, like a call for testimonies. So a lot of people wrote to the French Alliance, and I picked in one of that stories. There are some connection. I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and I do like that. Sometimes I'm in the street, like in Coburn Park. There are some couples. I go and I talk to them. The astrologer, I was in the street. I saw the best astrologer in Bangalore. I thought I have to go in that astrologer because it's the best. So it's a mix of call for testimony, contacts, and in the street meeting the people. Obviously, the second question, I don't remember.
L'autocensure.
La censure. As I said, when I do an interview, I can feel the moment that the person is going to open or not. Some people can open just a little bit, and I don't want to shock them with some question. And I always ask when I feel that I'm at the limit, I say, I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer, you don't answer. Sometimes I'm surprised because the people go really far to the answers without asking. For example, there are some situations they talked freely about their sexuality. I didn't feel comfortable to go so far, but they accept to talk about that, so it was really interesting. There was a case, as I said, where a woman cried a lot, and I feel guilty to make that person cried. And when I go out from the interview, I say, maybe I was too willing too much. And after I learned that she loved the interview because she feel relieved after the interview. So maybe I'm like a psychologist. I don't know. I didn't make her pay for the interview. So. And the third question?
Well, I don't think you answered that question. The second question is more about censorship yourself. Did I get it right?
Oui,
yeah.
C'est plus l'autocensure.
Do you feel that you have to censor yourself when you...
Est-ce que vous allez retranscrire ensuite
I understood the question. I was going to answer right now. So, no, I'm not going to censor myself. If the person tell me the story, after each interview, I ask, do you accept that I share all the things that you shared with me, or there are some aspects that you don't want to share? Do you want to stay anonymous or not? And depending on the answer of the person, if I find that all the elements that she told me, the person is relevant for the subject I am exploring, I will tell. If not, sometimes maybe I will protect more than the person can imagine, because sometimes after the interview, they say, oh, you can say everything. But when I am writing, I don't know. Sometimes I feel that maybe I can hide a little bit more, not to expose, like in French. Perfect. And so that's it. No censure.
And the last question was about translations. Do you master translation? Do you follow up on? I don't think many of your books are translated, actually. You explained that the market in English-speaking countries is more limited than French-speaking countries. So, the question was about, does he actually oversee the translation? Or?
That's true that in English there are few books translated, but I think in total I am translated in like 16 countries. Very unexpected country like Mexico, Poland, China. China is difficult to be published in China because there is like a censorship council. Before each publication, there is an organization that is going to read if it's okay for publication. So I don't read each comic book that is going to be translated, obviously, because I don't speak all the languages, but I can see the cover. For example, there are some countries that are changing the covers to attain the market. For example, in Korea, it's very different from France. The first comic book that I show, Ce n'est pas toi que j'attendais, That is not you that I was expected for, with a blue cover. In Korea, they cut some illustration inside of the book and they put on a green font with yellow letters. Okay, but they did like that. I feel it's a little bit strange, maybe a little bit ugly. I didn't say ugly because I'm a diplomat, but they say that's the way it works with the market. We have to be very catchy with a lot of colors. So I can say no, but as I don't know the Korean market, I say yes, let's do the ugly way. And so that's it. And after, each foreign editor that is interested in my books, they go to my French publisher and they buy the rights to publish in the country. But I don't choose the foreign publisher. Even if there are two publishers in one country, I can choose one or the other. But if not, I say yes.
Thank you very much. Merci à tous. Bonne soirée. Good evening.
Thank you very much.